Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this new thing that I've been thinking about doing for quite some time. It's like the series is going to be called Just a Discord Chat with, and today we're starting off with a bang because we're with ZenAku. I'm sure most people know who ZenAku is, if not everyone. And He's an Australian Quake player who is currently in QPL. And the whole format right now, I'm sort of still testing it. Me and Zenecu's just been sitting here discussing what we're gonna do and stuff. We're just gonna wing it basically, because
hmm
that's what this is gonna be like. It's just gonna be a chat. Uh,
It
so yeah,
feels the most fresh this way if we're both just saying whatever, because then you know it's unfiltered. It's really just like whatever we were thinking. That's how it is. So it's good.
exactly. I literally came home like 10 minutes ago, just had a sandwich, and then we just started this call. And anyway, so yeah, dude, it's a pleasure to have you here. So hopefully this will be cool. How are you, by the way?
Well, thanks for having me, dude. It's always fun. I'm doing not too bad. Sometimes it gets a little bit boring in Poland because there's not like too many things I can do with like the visa that I have, but I'm just kind of waiting it out. But no, it's my day's going good. How's your day going?
Oh, my day's fine, absolutely. Like I said, just came home. For those who don't know, I'm working on the side, so to be able to finance everything, because yeah, Quake isn't the most what's it called? It's hard to like to make it go around economically. Anyway, I like my job,
Yeah.
so yeah, just came home from that. Like I said, grabbed a sandwich, and then we started this. I'm doing fine otherwise. You know, it's nice that we have QPL back in action, even though we're 3 men short and it's like a slightly different format, but it's nice anyway. It's like something to look forward to.
Mhm.
Yeah, so everything's going well otherwise.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all. So what you said there about the visa, I think that's interesting because like, how's
Uh,
you don't have a, so yeah, so tell me, what's the situation like? Do you have a, what's it called? Yeah, just go ahead.
okay, okay. So like the first thing we had was called like this thing called the national visa. Like that's what I'm not sure what other countries get, but like it from Australia, that's what we have. And it's actually fascinating because we like Lura and I got like pretty lucky because um, the thing is, if you had entered Poland before coronavirus had started, um, your visa was like extended indefinitely. So the thing is, we had like no work privileges, but it still meant that you could, just live in Poland as if you were just normal. Um, and it's funny because there's some like really interesting things again, like how fortunate things are because like this Iron Fist land that was in the UK, like just by coincidence they're out of the EU, so like because of the visa that I had, I can actually go to that country, but I can't go to other countries. Just so fucking lucky. Um, and it's really again it's really fortunate because like since then I've met some people in Poland that I've like either coached, met through the Polish community, like Flowey's dad's a mad dog. um and yeah, it's like it's nice that I've like somehow, with Quake I've kind of made the connections, and yeah, now I'm in the process of like getting this residence card. And well, I'm not sure what the situation will be because of like this Ukrainian war, and now they're like taking a lot of those, but I'm not too fast, to be honest. I'm like playing until QuakeCon and then reassessing like I do every year. So
Yeah, yeah, I think that's what everyone's doing. I've basically been saying,
mm.
from what I heard, I mean, I came into Quake in season two, of QPL, but I think I did. Yeah, season two, yeah. Last stage
Mm.
even. But from what I heard is like we've always had this mindset sort of that, oh, this will be the last season. And
Hmm.
and there's always been another one. So it's like hard to plan ahead pretty far. Um,
Hmm.
how's that been for you, by the way, to like what mindset
Mm.
have you had with QPL and so on?
Mm. It's pretty. I mean, lack of a better term, it's fucking brutal actually, because it's like you don't know how much time you should commit. It's very like for a lot of players who are not necessarily at the very top. I mean, even for me too. If I'm not like a Rafa, a Kilson, or in like a tier one team where they pay, they salary you something quite good, you're basically just hoping that you either like place well at a tournament and do well, or that you've built built a sustainable stream, from Quake, but it's not like it's definitely not easy, and providing content that people want to see. It's just you're kind of the thing is you have to kind of always be like you have to be fully committed, but then at the same time be ready that shit could just stop at any time. And we can see that with like the suspension of like the Russian players, which just, if I be honest, fucking sucks, obviously. But what can you do? Actually, I was going to say, like, what do you think about like the whole? Because you see like the rumors of like them making another Quake game, and like it seems like they are, but then it's also like, holy shit, if it's just going to be single player, we're kind of fucked again.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't know, man. Honestly, I to be fair, I'm not thinking about it so much because the way I work as a person is that I normally don't look ahead further than like 1 year. That's max, you know. Um,
Mm,
I don't like to plan ahead, and it's when I was younger, I was always planning ahead, like, oh, what am I gonna do in 5 years? And I was like living in the future. But now, after a string of events and stuff, I just sort of I think it's for the better. But I've started, valuing what I have at the moment more. So when it comes to Quake, which is like it's a big part of my life, even if I'm just a manager, it's my biggest dream right now. It's like basically everything I'm, thinking about, so
mm,
to say. Um, and yeah, I don't know. If the rumors are true, obviously that could be cool because if we get a new game, whether it's single player, multiplayer, I don't know. But when it comes to QPL, it's like, yeah, obviously I think everyone would be happy with another pro league, with another season. I mean,
mm,
um,
mm,
and but yeah, it's a I'm not the right person to ask because I don't have much of
mm,
an opinion about it yet, you know. But in the future, we'll see, absolutely. But yeah,
mm.
it is what it is.
Uh,
Um, so so okay, so basically, when we're talking about this season, and we're talking
mm,
about because this season is a very different format, right? It's like a completely different, no lands and so on. And I remember I went into your stream, which is actually where I got this idea for some weird reason to do this interview thing. But anyway, I
mm,
went into your stream and I heard you were talking about it like, oh, it's like it's different now that there's no lands. It's like harder to sort of plan it. Or what's your opinion
mm.
about that? Like, did you like the old format more, where there was a pandemic, so we didn't have those lands for quite some time, but you were there from the beginning, right? Almost from the beginning.
Mm, mm. I think it's really well. The thing is, like the lands, or even just like the finals, are a nice way to say, like, well, at this moment, you have like you can kind of muster all your performance up to a big event, which got you more money, and as a player, it's very important actually because like instead of having multiple opportunities to kind of like increase your stats. Say, oh, at stage 3 finals, I got top 4, I got top 8 or something. But now it's a weeklies. It's like, well, you're playing for like, and again, I'm very grateful that we have it, and it's good. But just as a comparison, it is what it is. And when you're playing for like arguably a bit like the same but over a longer period, and you just have QuakeCon, it's kind of like you've got one shot to make it good. And even then, there are so many fucking factors that happen. Like, what if, like we've already seen, now we have 3 players that are not going to potentially go to QuakeCon because of that. And it's like, um, how can I say? Again, we were talking earlier about making a sustainable career from this. You need to have moments where people can kind of like uh, feel like they're, I don't know, on the mission with you. If you're just playing a weekly match and okay, sweet, you won versus this guy, but it's like there's more hype around finals, which again, I understand maybe because there was less money involved with it. But yeah, it's important to have these statistics because that's what helps build your story, and building your story means you can potentially make more money, more sustainable, more players. We're going on the right track, and yeah, it's funny because I wanted to go home to Australia even after the last QuakeCon. But then because that was like at the last second, it's like, nope, Corona's not going to happen. So we're going to do it this way. I was like, oh shit, well, okay, we'll stick around for stage 3. I'll try to do a plan where I'll go to home after QuakeCon again. And it's like, just kind of waiting and waiting. And I think after this QuakeCon, if they do another season or not, I'm just going to go home, at least for a little bit, because, I think it's been, what, more than 2 years now since I've been back. So
Oh, so even if you'd have a spot in the next season, you wouldn't attend?
Well, I think I will attend, but I would just say like I have to go back for at least like 1 or 3 months,
Oh,
like
okay.
minimum.
Yeah. So not
Yeah,
permanently.
no, no. I think for opportunities in Australia, it's like, well, people can see it's even more limited. You know, I see what it's like for other games in Australia. It's pretty, you know, it's like you're making less than minimum wage, and even the players that do well, they go overseas, and they're
Yeah.
usually on other teams. So yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So okay, so you're not looking to like permanently move back to Australia and like put your esports career aside. So you're still trying to like make it in Quake or what? Is there any other game that you're thinking about, or it's just Quake?
Mm. It's funny because like maybe I shouldn't look at this, but I really look at it like this. But I really do think I'm like not necessarily screwed, but in the sense that my mechanics and the way that I interpret information and how I learn is like I don't know. I'm like at Quake, even at Quake, I'm kind of like 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 I would say like I understand that I'm good, but then when I think of like other games and how players become good at those games, I'm like the reason why they're good is different to me. Like if I see Razy and how he's like mechanically fantastic and can interpret the game well, he could transition those skills very good. But if I were to go play like a game which is heavily mechanics based, I think I would be quite behind because of the way that I've built a structure, at least the way that I've learned this game, which has already taken me fucking quite a while and a lot of effort. I think that the amount of effort it would take and where I am with like in my life right now, I think that it's just not something that I would want. So it would like have to be another arena FPS. I think if I were to like keep playing after Quake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that completely. It's just how it
Mm.
is, It's like you've put down everything into one game. It's kind of hard. I mean, you're not old, but you're 28, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you're not
So
old, but still, it's like you say, the older you get, the harder it is to like learn a game from scratch mechanically and stuff like that. It's just how it is. But that's what I think is interesting about Quake, is because, of course, Quake is also about mechanics, but it's also a lot about, like I don't know if it's like experience, just like learning stuff, like reading your opponent, stuff like that, which is
mm,
why we have so many people who is like above 30 years old and still playing. And one
mm,
of the most interesting things about that is that when I come from Counter-Strike, right? I literally like yeah, I lived and breathed Counter-Strike for so long, and so you rarely see anyone over 30 playing. And the ones who are over 30 who's playing, they're not like tier 1.
mm,
I can't think of anyone in Counter Strike that is over 30 and still. I think okay, I can't think of a few, but I think you get my point, right? Like all of the people
mm,
have their highlight career like during I don't know, between 18 and 26 or something, and then
mm,
their the muscle memory stuff like that like gradually starts declining, and
mm,
that's why I found Quake so interesting, because it's like
mm,
full of veterans who's also been playing the game for so long.
mm.
Uh, yeah,
Well,
that's yeah. Go ahead.
just an idea on that with regards to why older Quake players are generally better. It's usually down to like at least I feel so is like just purely emotion control. Perhaps when you're older, you're able to like in Counter Strike, you have smaller windows or smaller moments where the decisions you make are still impactful, but you have like in shorter spans. I can hold my attention if it's just for like this short period, right? But because in Quake, it's like if you die and you tilt push, well, that's a big fucking deal, actually.
Yeah,
um, and that's actually probably like why Rafa is the best, I think, is because as much as he does complain, but if you consciously see what he's doing in game, actually, it's like his decisions are always um, statistically always the best. It's like so he doesn't let his emotions like he doesn't try to do some crazy thing because he's feeling emotionally high. He's just in it to play the statistics, and that's why he's statistically the best player. So
yeah, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's interesting input, absolutely.
Mm,
Okay, so one thing that I find very interesting about players in general is like how their life looks, especially if you're playing Quake full time, because
Mm.
playing Quake full time for me is because you play Quake full time, am I correct? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And for me, it's interesting because, like we've been talking about before, it's kind of you don't play so much. You play one match a week, and that's about it during the season. And then you have like you even have off weeks, and then every third week we're also not playing.
Hmm.
So if you compare it to like okay, so you're a full-time Quake player. If you compare it to like a full-time Counter-Strike player, uh,
Mm.
y usually they play more,
Mm.
and that's why I find it interesting to know what these like what do the players in QPL do outside of Quake? Obviously, I know you're practicing a lot. We know that,
Mm.
but when you don't play Quake, what do you do? Like, how does your everyday life look over there
Mm.
in Poland?
I think like when you're trying to achieve a goal, it's like I guess the way that I look at it is that your the whatever's at the peak or like the top of your on the top of your goal list is like exactly how you're optimizing your life to achieve this, right? So I think to myself, it's like, okay, so I want to play the best that I can for my match on Saturday, and I need to make sure that everything I do in my week or all the months leading up to that is like optimized for that. So let's say if it's just okay, if I'm going to exercise on this day, how tired will I be with relation to practice? Because if I'm too tired in practice, it won't be as good, it won't be as efficient. Therefore, it can be better. And it's like trying to find out all the you know though I feel like the way for improvement is just making your list as efficient as possible. um, and the thing is, I get a little bit greedy, I guess, because in my mind it's like you have to be really careful with this because there is an element of like, well, you could just play more, you could just keep getting more references and stuff like this, and then you start to realize like, oh well, you start to like pull away from other parts of your life, whether it's like relationships or um, I think it's actually mainly just that, actually, honestly, because you're grinding so much that you spend less time with people, and well, you can't be grinding and talking to someone at the same time. And as much as I've tried to do that, you cannot do that. You can't play a duel and also have a conversation with someone where you're invested. It just doesn't work this way.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so no, to be honest, like nothing too crazy. Just like going to the gym and I need more other hobbies. I mean, the other problem is like in Poland, it's I don't know, it's a couple things. It's like it's cultural difference. It's also I didn't learn Polish maybe to the extent that I needed to, but and all the foreign people that are here are all here for different reasons, and it's very hard. It's very interesting because I've been in a similar circumstance before where when you're going to a city where there's a foreign minority, it gets even not only is it gets weirder, but it gets even like stranger, similar, in the sense that like you have people from different cultures that are trying to come together and they're all doing different tasks. It's very hard to like actually connect with someone because you're just not doing the same thing. And the way you would like, I remember when I was it was crazy to me. When I went to Iron Fist and I just go down the center and I start talking to Garpy and Nigel, and I'm like, man, it's like I'm having a conversation with the boys when I was at home. And
Yeah.
it was so interesting to me because I was like, I just couldn't remember that. Like, I just remember the last time I had that conversation. And even if I were to talk to some guy, like I've got a friend in Poland who's Turkish, and it's like, well, I just can't joke with him the same way I would talk with my friends in Australia. We're just not the same, like, culturally.
Yeah, that's just how it
Yeah.
is, man. I agree to that
Yeah.
fully. It's like you just click in another way with someone who well, obviously Garpy is not from Australia, but you're still, talking the same language, and still you can relate to each other a lot. So
Mm,
yeah, that's I totally agree with you on that. Um,
mm,
so okay, so when it comes to the move to Poland, by the way, because this is also interesting, because I wrote I wrote this article about Lur, Matthew,
mm,
uh, who's the
mm,
guy you moved here with, yeah,
mhm,
and
mhm,
it was interesting for me. It was super interesting to like read about to read because he wrote everything down, and we didn't talk. He wrote everything down for me, and it was like reading a book because it was so interesting to hear how or actually to read how he experienced this move to
mm,
Poland from Australia. And for him, it was like a huge culture shock or whatever you want to call that. It was like feeling really exposed by everything and like not really feeling like you fit in. Was it the same for
Mm.
you when you came here? Like, did you feel, yeah, how was it for you when you came here?
Um, I think very much the same. I think like when I'm sticking to the task or when I'm sticking to like focusing on playing Quake, I think it didn't really hit it as much as maybe it hit him because he is like 100% Polish, but he grew up in Australia, and I think for him it's like he is invested into playing Quake, but I think he's like also invested into like understanding how to actually integrate into Polish culture because maybe he could potentially live here too. And I think it was a bit different for him than it was for me because like I didn't really have as much interest for that. It was more just like a place, to go to and from, and I was going to play Quake here. Whereas I think he was more like trying to get his Polish passport and get a girlfriend and kind of be more in that atmosphere. And um, I think it's not. I don't think it's over yet for him. I think it's like he is still developing his skills, and it's really it's fascinating for me, like the way that different people um, interpret learning or going through improvement. Because for example, for me, it's like we talked earlier about um, grinding, and you just keep going. Doesn't matter what it is. You're just I'm fucking fantastic for that. But at the same time, he is also like that, but he does it in a different way to me. Like I'm happy to get. I mean, he is happy to get smashed by Rafa 100 games in a row as well. But for some reason, like when I came here, like I think I found those opportunities more, and I almost like looked for them. And because of that, that was maybe more the defining factor between him and I. Um, but at the same time, like he still does that, and again, it's like everybody is different. Just um, now even for me now I have to try to figure out how to even improve it from there. Sorry, I've kind of steered away from what the question was, but long story short, it was different.
It was different. Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah, for
it
between
was
both
a
of
good
us.
answer, honestly, man.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting, but yeah, was it was January 2 years ago or no?
January 20th, I think.
Yeah, January 20th. Which year? 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, a little bit over 2 years ago.
Mm,
So yeah, that's pretty sick. When it comes to the monetary situation, that's also something that I've been very interested in because obviously now you're signed by Direwolves, but before that,
mm,
you didn't have an org, right? You played
mm,
like last season you played without an org, and
mm,
how was that when it came to the monetary situation? Because
mm.
yeah, tell me, how was it?
Okay. So the thing is, like, as you can imagine, Australian dollars are worth. They're not. I mean, I love that. I love that sweet USD. You know what I'm saying? But how can I say, like, when I'm trying to, like, well, again, it's like the mindset of like the grinder. Like in Australia, I didn't really know. I knew that I wanted to play Quake, but at the same time, I was like also building my income. So I actually just fucking worked heaps. Like I don't know if I feel comfortable saying how much I had, but I had like enough to support myself by independently. Um, and then it was kind of like, but for me, that's why getting into the QPL, and doesn't matter how I did it. I know people say like Australian and Poland playing in NA and whatever it is, but for me, the only thing that I really cared about was like incomes needed to come as quick as possible because that was going to supplement as well, as much as I could to me and being able to like stay longer. Um, my parents do help me like every so often, just as more as like, hey David, do you want some shopping money? And I'm like, well, I don't really need it, but I mean, if you're gonna send me fucking, I'll take it if you want.
Free money.
So, but at the same time, like, I think there was only probably one moment where it was tough, and that was right after QuakeCon 2020. And that was when I was like moving place and they needed a deposit and I had to like just buy a whole bunch of stuff. That's when I was like, I'm a little bit fucked. Then like the Australian guys donated to me, and there was like a whole part of that as well. They again, I don't know if I should say how much it was, but like enough for me for Poland in Australian dollars. It's fucking ridiculous how much actually you get away with. Well, you get away with this. You you can support yourself with that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm,
good to hear. And
mm,
I can and so what did it mean to get signed by Direwolves then? Was that also like was that a relief, so to say, when it came
mm,
to the financial part, or yeah, what else do you get out of playing for them?
mm. I mean, honestly, like, well, firstly, they're a fucking cool bunch of guys. I mean, like, even they're from New Zealand. They're a little bit different, but it's not that bad. No, but they're like they talk again the same way that the way I know how to communicate with them. We really kind of get along, and the nice thing about this whole process of me joining in 2020 was like that the way that they did the structure of like um, how you would get paid based on finals and other ways too. Um, and then just coincidentally that they then change it to maps. And then after that, I started to do even better. So it's like there was a really nice like gradual increase where actually even if I had been signed by Direwolves or not, it wouldn't have really had mattered actually, which is kind of like a nice like tidbit. It's kind of just again me ticking more boxes, saying like, well, I feel like there's an area that can be accessible here, and um, you just have to like uh, don't waste time and just go for them because it's kind of like, well, not only can I share with them, we work together, and I benefit from that. So, and it's just again trying to make it more sustainable. It's the whole point of doing this whole process is to be a sustainable resource in the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously that's like I feel like that's you kind of have to have that mindset as well, even though you're like focusing 100% on Quake and like all you want to do is just win. You still have to
Mm,
keep in mind, oh shit, well I still need to like make money somehow,
mm,
because otherwise you'd get thrown out of the apartment or like what's the situation? Because by the way, you used to live with Avik, right? And
mm.
you don't do it anymore.
Well, okay. Actually, what did I want to say about that for a second? Uh, I already forgot. It's okay. No, actually, I never lived with Avik here. It was I always lived with Matt in Sosnovich. If there's any Polish guys watching, I think you'll laugh because it's a meme. Apparently, the city, and it kind of is. Um, and then I went to Wrocław, or Wrocław, as I like to say, because it sounds more English. And Avik was here, and I met some other people too, which was like Flowey was here too, so it was a bit easier to meet up with them. And again, it's hmm, it's a bit of a shame. Like I love those guys, and I hope they love me. Jeez, but like I think it just at some point it's like it's funny. We were we are quite close, but in other ways we're not, and that I think that's also what's kind of like you know hurt me over time is like that just again just relationships, right? Because in Australia, if I were to talk to them in the way that I would talk to them as an Australian, like me and Matt are still good friends. I'm still good friends with those guys too, but it's a different type of like harder to grow those relationships, and it's even been harder to do it even here too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah, sounds cool, man.
mm,
So
mm,
what else? What else? Like, because one thing that's also interesting to me is the off season. Because the off season was also pretty cool. It was obviously cool because we had Iron Fist. Iron Fist, at least to me, was a really cool experience. But it
mm,
was my first LAN with Quake, obviously. So I thought it was fucking amazing, and I was like, I was in bliss the whole time, and
mm,
I remember I have so many memories of the event and so on. But one thing that is interesting is the off season was nearly 6 months between the two seasons of QPL.
mm,
So and one thing that we did see was that a lot, not a lot, but like several organizations released their players. So Cypher was released from Navi after
mm.
last season. Um, who else? I'm just being.
No, Maxter.
Yeah, Maxter was released. Yeah, there was a few other as well from like smaller orgs, but yeah, I
I can
I
have a
forgot about
look.
them. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mm,
it's interesting because obviously there was probably had something to do with the off season. Not sure,
mm,
but probably. And so the off
Mm.
season for, I think, for many players was kind of rough, if at least if you were released from your org and you were playing full time. But I'm not sure how many players who were actually in that situation. I think it was just Cypher, and I
Mm.
don't really know how he's been like financially sustaining himself from here on. I think he makes a little from streaming, and obviously he's got savings and stuff. But anyway, uh, Direwolves. Wait, when were you signed by Direwolves again?
Mm. Mm. I hope they're not watching because I actually forgot. I think it's about May or June of
Okay,
last year. Yeah.
yeah. So it was like, and they decided to keep you during the off season, correct?
Uh, um, they had, but it was kind of a bit of like a weird like the contract ended just before Iron Fist, and then we had talked about like how how it's still like do content for them, or I think they were just like happy to keep me. They were just a bit more free with being like, yeah, I think they were just more like they just didn't want me to go to another
Okay,
team. So that's why they were more like, okay, we want you to stay because we believe that you actually have something that we can work with. So
okay, cool.
yeah,
That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
mm,
Uh, so yeah. Anyway, speaking about London, um,
mm,
what was your experience in London? You placed fourth, and
mm,
I remember you did pretty well, and I remember one thing in particular, and that is when you played CNC, right? The lower bracket game, and it
yeah,
was
yeah.
I think for those who know what we're talking about. For those who know, you know, but for those who don't know, it was like a really tight game. It was a bit went to three maps. It was like it was sudden death, I think, in the last map on Exile, I think it was. Yeah, it was like a really tight. You won by one frag, and I remember CNC was like ultra tilted after that match. He
Mm,
just sort of went up and leave. You know, I didn't even bother talking to him because he was like so tilted over after that.
mm,
But I remember that I went up and like shook your hand and stuff, and the first thing you said to me was, "Oh, I didn't deserve to win that game."
mm.
And that was like for me that was such a cool thing because I was like, damn, this dude is so humble because you know even when he loses, he still says that he shouldn't have. Even when he wins, I mean, he still says he shouldn't have won. Obviously, it
Mm.
was a really tight game, but that's one of the coolest memories of you. And also, I remember sitting behind you, not sitting, I was standing behind you when you played Buckster. It was also a tight game, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember it was like yeah, also went to the third map. It was really tight. You got the last frag and you just fuck yeah, you know, like it was the whole
Yeah,
fucking venue was like you just shouted over the venue. It was so cool because it was like that's esports for me, you know. It's that
yeah.
fucking emotion that comes into
Mm,
playing.
mm,
Anyway, that was my little talk about Iron Fist. But how did you
yeah.
experience it?
Well, actually, I will say two things about what you just said.
Yeah,
One is like sometimes if I win a map that I deserve, like I'm like I know I deserve to win. It's like you probably when I'm watching my stream and I just say if the guy had executed a different way, I'd be dead.
yeah,
And it's like sometimes I'm just like I can just tell but the thing is when I do kill someone where I know they should die, I'm like fuck off. There is no way actually there's nothing you can say. But when this last moment is like when I watch back actually what scenes he had and like I think the trouble is he had no rockets or
yeah,
something like this, and I would have fucking died immediately. I'm not sure if he had shotgun, and it's like, um, well, just the heat of the moment, and it's like I know if he had executed a bit differently, I would have lost. I felt like I had fucking lost, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna try something because I need to do it. So, and actually, that's the other thing I wanted to say is like about CNZ is like, uh, how can I say? At least for me, it's like him and I have been kind of increasing at the same time, so it feels like. But holy shit, because I think people don't realize uh, when he plays in practice or what he will do and how he like he's just very he's like a Rafa but with like less control. I feel like and actually he hits all the damage he should. This is actually very critical. Is that he hits basically everything he should, and sometimes like it's interesting because I was practicing him with Rafa's picks, and he was doing like how can I say he was playing better I thought, and then when the match came versus Rafa, I felt like he just fell off by like and I don't mean this. I'm not trying to be like negative. I'm just trying to be like constructive criticism. That it felt like he fell off, and I'm like, man, this guy if he would play like he did in practice, he would fucking crush. Like not even not that it wouldn't be fucking close, but versus Rafa, it'd be like 1-1. And actually, he's done that. He's beaten Rafa in like best of threes and shit. And I'm just like, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want him to do good because then I'm like, well, fuck, now I have to do better than him, and it's tough. But yeah, I see him in practice, and I'm like, I know what he's capable of doing. Yeah, and he's he can do that. Um,
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
yeah.
for me it's also been cool because I signed him back in March last year, and he was kind
Mm,
of like always fighting relegation back then. Like he
mm,
wasn't. I think I remember that stage when I signed him. He didn't do very well. I think it was like he had one win and we had lost all the other matchups. And then
mm,
towards the end, he managed to win. Uh, Actually, that was the stage before. Sorry, the first stage he was in relegation. The second stage he just narrowly avoided it. But
mm,
regardless, he was always doing well when it mattered. But in the stage, he was not doing super well. Like obviously, he
mm,
was still playing QPL. That's obviously a high level, but you know what I mean, yeah. And
mm,
but for me, it's been interesting to see like the journey that he's done too, because well, so far this season it's looking so freaking amazing. You know,
mm,
he just took a map off Rafa. And I think the third map also. I think many people can agree that CNC was in control for like the first half of the map, and then
mm,
you know sort of just spiraled out. That's just Rafa, you know, the robot just starting to run you over. But anyway, like
mm,
yeah, like you said, uh, he's a very cool player. He's very mechanical. CNC, I mean.
mm,
Uh, so yeah. Anyway, London. Like,
mm.
how was the stay there, and how
What
was
was that all like?
yeah? What did the event mean for you? For your
Mm,
career?
mm. Um, to be still, I think that like I don't know. When I talk to other people, they seem to have more of a higher impression of myself than I do of myself, and I don't mean that in like a self-depreciating way. I think it's just more like I think it's because when I see how well or like how far you can take it with like esports in your career and how much you can be paid and what you can do, I still think that like I'm kind of just like someone who's getting there, but I'm not there. You know what I mean? Because I know what it could be like when I see like what Rafa does, or like I can the way that he talks, you can kind of tell how much time he's spending and what he's doing. And I'm like, if I want to be paid like he does, I need to be doing that, and I need to be doing more than what he's doing, right? Um, but no, it was a good event. I think like getting top four is again like obviously quite good for me, and I was like going into that event, I was just like mentally uh, like forward thinking the whole time, and I think that's like very critical for um, going through the tournament. Is like you have to be so sure that like I don't know, the practice or what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve is so it's funny, like the more you write your goals down or you're aware of them, the more you'll actually mentally just push, you'll actually go for them. And I think that I was like, no, like I have to like getting top four here is gonna mean that I'm like pushing even closer to what I'm trying to get towards. And I just like the way that I played those games was, I feel like, a reflection of that. um and but other than that is like I think that like talking with everybody and like not having that experience such a long time is very nice. Um, and what else can I say? I want to say something, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not. Um,
Your call,
uh,
man. Your call.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'll put it like this: I met some people there that are kind of important in my life, and I think that it's like become, and it started from that event. So I'm just really happy that that's
Cool, cool.
come from that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's how
Mm.
it is, man. I mean, that's why LANs are so important because that's the real esports. You know, yeah, we can sit and play QPL. I'm saying we because I'm not fucking playing, but well, I'm saying we anyway because you know I like to think I'm a small part of QPL. I mean, I'm still kind of part of it. Anyway, yes,
Can I can I have a tidbit? Actually, I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to say
yeah,
something that I think would be really nice for you.
yeah.
Is
Go
the
ahead.
sense of like, I was even because I thought this with like with regards to dramas and CNZ, and how they've improved. I think you even like tweeted something which was kind of like, oh, when you do facilitate them and you improve them, then that's what, that you do see the progression. And I think that like it doesn't, what's really fascinating, it doesn't sound like much. And like I don't know why I love this sentence that like not in a, I don't know, you always have to say this, don't you? You don't have to say that. And everything starts from like the love of something. If you love something, you will give it the time and you will put the effort. And not that you love CNZ in a erotic way or something, but you love your players in a way where you spend the time. And I find that fascinating. That like since then, wow, they're doing better. I don't think it's because they're if they did this by themselves, maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. But I think that the more like time where the way I look at it is like if you do love something, actually like the people will feel that and they push for you, and actually that's like in a game like Quake, it's fucking the difference between winning and losing sometimes. So I think that I can't remember what the question was.
Me
No,
neither.
you
Me neither.
something about like CNZ doing well in dramas. I don't know. Anyway,
Anyway, to respond to what you said, yeah, I think it's true, and I think it's like,
mm,
you know, it just people will notice if you have a passion for something, and I think
mm,
that's where it starts because sometimes you come across people who are like sort of like con artists, they come
mm,
into the scene and they you know that they're there just to become famous. Like
mm,
that's what they want at least, oh shit, there's a chance for me to become famous here, so I'm gonna join this scene and just try and do something. But yeah, I think it's like you say, I've been like, I think my approach to the org, to having and to I'm not running the org, but running the Quake side of the org. I think my approach is slightly different from like other esports orgs because honestly, I make literally $0 from this. Like
mm,
CNC Dramas, they keep 100% of their earnings, and so we don't have so many sponsors. We don't really get any revenue from them. So basically, I'm
mm,
funding everything myself, and that's where
mm,
that's why in my head it's like it doesn't matter about money. That's why I'm not forcing them to do anything they don't want. Uh,
mm,
and also, it's more like we're just friends. We're in this together. And I think
mm,
that's something that I've actually been thinking about because if you take like I don't know, Cypher probably had a really really good experience in Navi, and Kilson is probably having a really good experience in Big. Uh,
mm,
but the way that those orgs work is that they are so big, they have so many games. So
mm,
for me, I keep thinking that okay, Quake is probably like something that those orgs don't make money. They don't probably make money from Quake because, like we said, it's really fucking hard to make like to actually make it profitable
mm,
because of the lack of sponsors, lack of big tier competition. Uh,
mm,
so what I sometimes feel is like I'm not sure this is how it is because obviously I've not been to other orgs, but what I sometimes feel is like maybe these players who are part of these bigger orgs, they
oh,
don't have that much contact with the org. They're just sort of playing, and
mm,
but the way that Dragonborn works is that we have a CSGO team and we have like a Smash player or whatever. We used to have League of Legends teams and whatever, but I don't have anything to do with that. Like I'm just like 100% Quake, and that's why,
mm,
you know, it's like all my energy goes to that. So I think it makes sense. I mean, and for me, it's like, dude, I could cry, when I see Dramas win versus Racy. He won versus Racy, he won versus Wenger. I mean, I don't think anyone
mm,
expected that. And CNC took a map off Rafa, nearly fucking won the series. I mean,
mm,
to me that's like, dude, I was crying, literally crying
mm,
when that happened
mm,
because that's freaking cool to me. Like
mm,
because when you can so clearly see the improvements that they've done,
yeah.
so yeah, that was
And
just, yeah. Go ahead.
I think there's no shame in like well obviously it's because you do appreciate that and like exactly like the words you used, you saw the improvement over time. It's like what you did had an effect and this is the effect that it had, right? That's actually
Yeah.
quite well it's quite beautiful to see, yeah, it's nice. There's something else I wanted to say. Oh, with like the statistics with regards to, like for example Cypher and Rafa, right? I mean, I guess not only do they stream and they provide good numbers, but I think that like because the organization is that big, all due respect, I think is my just take on it that they're just a number buffer.
Exactly.
They're a number buffer in the sense like where it's like, yeah, we have 7 games, we have 7 teams. and then in the six of those teams, six of them are world champion. And we've got this guy Rafa. We won't tell you the numbers that people are watching in Quake, but he's like six-time world champion,
Yeah,
right? And it's same thing with Cypher too. It's like just because they have him, that's they can add it, show it to the sponsor. It's just a nice thing to add to the list that may or may not be worth the salary that they put him towards, but he still gets paid that.
yeah,
Um, and
exactly.
well, yeah, that's kind of how things are. I think there's no other way to put it. But
No, and I don't think that's something that you should, not talk about because that is one of the problems that Quake is facing, right? It is a small scene, not so much money. Well, obviously QPL has money, but
mm,
if you compare it to other titles, it's still not that much money. And if we want, and that's also something that's interesting for me because like Quake back in the days, obviously I was barely born back then, so I wasn't there physically, but I was there physically, but I was like 5 years old. But when Quake
mhm,
was like really, really at its finest, what
mm,
2001, 2002, 2003, it was like events all over the world, CPLs, like it was played at the ESWC, it was played at and then, at the later stages, we had like IEM, I think, played it, and then obviously QuakeCon, that's always been around. But all in all, there were so many other, like now there's like no other organizer except for QPL.
mhm,
And then
mm,
there's like small cups, and then obviously we had Maestro organizing IRONFIST, which was awesome. But you know, there's no like IEM, there's no ESWC every year that's coming up. Or
mm,
DreamHack,
mm,
for example, that's also a great example. Uh,
mm,
uh, I'm not sure you can answer this question, and you don't have to, but
mm.
if you had to like, what do you think would be needed for Quake to become like that again, like back in the golden
Um,
days?
um, hmm. Well, I think the thing is like it's always accessibility. Well, actually, there's two takes you could take on it. The first one is like maybe the most convenient way, which is like without making it actually a joke, it's true. You need to have the volume of the players, and you need to have those players paying. They need to pay the money. That's where they come from. And with ironically with Fortnite is like okay, Fortnite and Counter Strike. Like Counter Strike, there's all the whole like weapons ecosystem and how each weapon has different value. And I'm sure, like, I mean, I can only assume that's potentially how it works. Maybe actually you could clarify after, but in like Fortnite, it's like all due respect, the 13-year-old kids then they need to get their parents' money to buy the skin. Well, I don't care. I don't care what account it's coming from, the money is going into Epic, and that's where the money is there. With Quake, because of the difficulty, you either need to do two things: just make it accessible, or you do something else which really is really nice, which also could be really fun. Is that you sell the story of the players to the point where it's a bit like UFC or MMA. I mean, I don't really follow those two things either. But at the same time, I would bet that like, well, I don't think 80% of the fucking audience is fighting MMA in their spare time,
No,
or
exactly.
like or in the ring. But what they do a good job of is that the players are really like interesting and. Just like a little tidbit for you guys, like Direwolves and I are like working on some kind of like documentary thing where it could be really interesting, and we hope to kind of like attack this a little bit. Um, because then that's where it can be really beneficial for the team and for me as well. Um, but yeah, I think it's either the volume of the players or you invest money into selling the story and having the players actually be willing to sell the story too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that sounds pretty. That would be pretty fucking sick, and I think that
Mm,
you're not the only one who's said that either about the stories behind the players and stuff. Because I mean, honestly, that's important. Because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this as well. Because we have all these really fucking talented players, and they all have really inspirational stories and stuff. But we don't no one knows anything about them. It's like, oh yeah, ZenAku,
mm,
Rafa, we have all the players lined up, but we know almost nothing about them, like except for what
mm,
they're doing inside the game. And yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense. For it to, I don't know, for it to be like to have for Quake to have a system like Counter Strike, for example, where you have skins and stuff that you can sell for an incredible amount of money.
mm,
Uh, well, obviously we use the Steam marketplace, but obviously people the real money that comes from skins doesn't really go to Steam. I feel like it goes to other
Mm,
players, but still, for Quake to have something like that, I don't know. I can't see how it would work because it's such a small community, you know. So that's why I think it
mm,
would be better to do what you said to like to yeah to like what's it called? Give all the players more depth to the point
yeah,
where
yeah.
people will start looking watching just because of that.
You know, something interesting that you just said, which I kind of just realized now, is like how hard is it to make a video about yourself?
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost like, I want to say it's almost egotistical. It's like, hey, here's a 1 hour video about me talking about my life. It's like, I don't know, it just doesn't really sell, doesn't really come off very good, I think. But in this case, it's like, well, if it's you and me and people know who you are, and I'm kind of like sharing my story a bit too, it doesn't feel just like so. Hey, this is me just trying to like get your attention. Can I get your attention? You know, it's like we're kind of we're both sharing here, and that's what's nice, I think.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's how it
yeah.
should be, right? I mean, and that's what we need more of. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully this series will continue. But so far, it's really fucking cool. By the way, I wanted to ask um, one thing that I also find interesting, and that because we spoke like a couple minutes before the call started.
Mm.
But what uh what do you think like took you to the top? You know, because
Oh.
obviously you had a life before Quake, and so
Mm.
how did that look? And like what? Yeah, yeah. Obviously you
No,
had a
that
life.
sentence just sounded funny because
Yeah, yeah,
it's like you were a loser and now you're a Quake player.
yeah. No,
No,
that's
I'm
not what I
joking.
meant. But
No, I guess
I
you.
mean, yeah, obviously, yeah.
No,
You know what I mean. And
I guess you're right. Yeah.
like when it comes to coming to the top, right, it's not just grinding, 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 grinding. You
Mm.
also need to
Oh.
have a certain mindset and like certain aspects of yourself that is
Mm.
fitting to because not everyone can become a pro, right? That's just how it is.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
I don't think I can, for example, because I've
Mm.
tried for years and years and years to make it in Counter Strike. I didn't make it, and
Mm.
that's okay. Like I've accepted it, right? But when it comes to you,
Mm.
what do you think made you come to the top? Like,
Mm.
what's like inside the head, you know, that's like
Mm.
making it easier.
So, I think a large part of it is self-reflection. But self-reflection sounds like so self-reflection. What the fuck? What does that really mean? But it's like, it's addressing all those points where it hits the spot. You know what I mean? And I think everybody that plays, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like if you're like I will say for an example, like if I'm playing Rafa, I feel like I respect him, and at least I think he respects me, or there's some kind of mutual respect. And when I play, there I don't get emotionally triggered. He's not trying to piss me off, not trying to do anything. But then, funnily enough, like when I play someone else, let's say if I play Avic or if I play CNZ, actually in particular, like him and I, we don't hate each other, but at the same time, um, it's like we both increase at the same time. It's like I feel like there's a level of competition, especially since the Iron Fist tournament. It's like who's better, who's worse, and at least that's how I perceive it. And it's funny that like in those moments when I play him, the way that I emotionally engage with myself and in that moment is different to when I play Rafa. And how is it that my skill increases versus Rafa and then it decreases when I play CNZ? Um, and again, it's more about like, well, now you have to go in. You have to ask yourself, like, yeah, you have to do a lot of like mindset shifts. It's like, okay, what don't I like about playing CNZ? And I list out like all things. Okay, he does this, this, and this, and it's like, um, okay, why is it that I can't be okay? And this is like word for word what you would do. You'd be like, why can't I accept the fact that he plays well and that he could beat me? It's like because I can't stand someone who's like, if we're competing for the same level, I have to be better, and that's where it's bad. Because then it has like, I mean, there is that level of competition which is good, but now it's that thing where it's like, if I play Rafa, oh, if I lose, it doesn't matter, it's Rafa, right? It's like, but the thing is, that's not the right approach either. It needs to be the kind of that balanced approach where, you know, just like Rafa would say. Thank you, Shane. What he would say is like, focus on the fucking game. Like it doesn't matter about all this bullshit about like, man, does the guy put his hair differently to how you like, or did he say something about your mum? It's not. It's not about that. You're just focusing on the game. You're just trying to play it. And if you're good enough to win, you will win. If you lose, you lose. Sometimes it's harder to accept the loss, but you get back on the horse.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not about gamer socks or like gaming carpet, because regardless of how much people want to think that, it's like one thing that I always thought about is like it's always so funny because I don't know. When it comes to gear, I mean nowadays, keyboards, monitors, computers, like you have a monster setup. Most players have the monster setup, but funnily
Mm,
enough, almost always it's like those who made it to the top are those who started off with like playing with a fucking newspaper as a mouse pad or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like
mm,
because
mm,
they had to grind so hard, and in many
mm,
ways uh, sometimes I also felt feels like that could be an advantage in a way because you start off with
mm,
shitty gear and like shitty what's it called, like shitty
mm.
external things, so that
Periph-
sorry,
peripherals.
yeah, peripherals, yeah, and also like shitty uh
Um,
circumstances, right?
mm,
And when he talked about ref, I remember I was watching an interview with him, and I'm pretty sure he said like that he when he was younger, right, before he really blew off, but
mm,
before that, his parents were like divorced or something, and he could only play at like one of them. So when he
mm,
was at the other place, he couldn't really play at all, which of
mm,
course would be like that is like holy shit, he can't play when he's there, and he still made it to the top. He still made it work for some reason.
mm.
I don't know. It's just like so many people that I know who made it really, really far in esports. They started off like literally from the gutter, and
So
then yeah, go ahead.
if I can say something about that, which is I think so on point with that idea is like, when the reason is good enough, there's like some Dragon Ball quote. By the way, boys, I'm fucking a bit of a weeb, but anyway, there's like a Dragon Ball quote where like Goku says to Gohan, or it's like your response, your power is only like a response to um, the need of something, not a desire. It's like if you fucking needed to fucking win, like instead of just like if you want to win, but it's like you created the reason why you need to win this game. If it's for someone or you're doing it like, if you want to actually make your career out of it, then this is it has to be. This doesn't matter about what it is. And so, for example, in Rafa's case, is like I'm not sure what he was thinking back then, but I can imagine that like he said like, okay, I want to win Quake. Okay, what are the circumstances? Well, firstly, why does he want to win, or what's the need? But at the same time, it's like regardless of whatever it was in his way, it's like how to optimize shitty circumstances. Actually, improvement in a lot of ways is actually just optimizing bad things, or like try to make it as good as you can. Um, but anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is like if it's if the idea is good and the reason why you're wanting to achieve it, then you will go through whatever pain the fuck you want to achieve this.
Yeah,
And that's actually quintessential for, becoming the best because chances are the person who's on like the other side of you in the grand final is equally as fucking tough as you are.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah. And and that's why it's so interesting because it's not about peripherals, how you say it, peripherals, yeah, it's like mouse,
Mm-hmm.
keyboard, stuff like that. You see people like, oh, I want to become a pro gamer, so what's the first step to becoming a pro gamer? Well, buy all the gear, like buy like a 10 grand computer. But that's not
Mm-hmm.
it, honestly, because what it is, it's all in here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at least from what we've been talking about, that's like, and you can see it in so many of these players now. We know Rafa's story, we know your story now, kind of, but there's
Mm-hmm.
so many players still that we haven't really like even scraped on the surface. We don't know really what it took for them to make it to the top, but probably they went through shit as well. Like they went through a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fucking shit, ups and downs, and it's all about like continuing, I can assume,
Mm-hmm.
if you agree to that. But yeah,
I think absolutely. I think the word I love for that is you got to develop like for lack of a better term, killer instinct.
Yeah.
Like if you play the game and you like really want to win, man, you have to fucking want to like make sure you want to win more than the other guy, because like I guarantee if there's an opportunity for him to beat you 1% better, he fucking will. And in a game like Quake, it's like well, you can see that if someone is a bit even remotely faster than you, it changes the game completely.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure. And to all the people who like, there's a lot of people who look up to you. I know that you're a super humble guy, and you just said, like, I don't know what's so special about me, but it's like a lot of people do look up to you. That goes without saying. And so like, if you had to say, I know this is gonna be fucking hard for you to just like shoot out, but if you
yeah,
had to
yeah.
say something to them, like, what would your best like tip for them
Mm.
be to like make it?
Hmm. Uh, I think actually I know exactly what I would say, because funnily enough, I say this because I already thought about if I would win Quake on exactly what I would say.
Ah, okay,
That's
smart.
actually like that's why I'm no, that's why I'm already kind of I already know what I would say, but I would just say like if I would is if I was talking to myself when I was younger, when I was like trying to get better, is like to not give up on yourself, is like really fucking huge. And at the same time, it's like you have to actually believe hmm, that it can be better, and that things can be better. So, mm, yeah, when you do that, then you're able to like actually create nice moments, maybe that you couldn't be able to before, and that's how that's where that killer instinct comes from, because it's like, well, I don't want to feel like the way that I did before, so therefore I will try to make it better.
Yeah.
And I think that you can do that if you're someone who wants to make it better.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense, absolutely.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, well, yeah, that I think a lot of people are like, it may sound like it's not so much, but if you like sort of, if you narrow it down, and you really like think about those words,
mm,
if you think about everything uh about Quake, like you don't have to make it so complicated, I guess, just like Rafa says, just focus on the fucking game, and it's like,
mm,
yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense when you think about it. But I think a lot of people are like, they want to become a pro, but they don't really sort of understand what it takes to come there, to get there. So they're like, okay, so what do I need to do to become a pro? I just grind, play, and like
mm,
sort of pick, sort of illustrate in their head that, okay, I'm on my way to becoming a pro. And I mean, obviously
mm,
you get better from playing, but what it takes is really like to be also to be critical, I can assume. That's also really
mm,
important. What would you say? Like to be critical of your own gameplay, and like also not
mm,
only your gameplay, but also like your mindset in general. Like not only
mm,
inside the game, but also like, oh, what am I doing right now? Like, is this really
mm.
the way to go?
In some ways, I think the best way to put it is that like there should be resistance, but I don't know if it's necessarily true, but the word I want to use is like it should be effortless in some way. It's like you're not being too critical, where you say like you're a piece of shit and you did this wrong and that, and or that the person you're playing against is like applying pressure and making you think of the game a certain way. It's like, I mean, to think of they're making you think of the game differently. Um, it's like it should be effortless in the sense like, okay, what do I need to do? And if you think of that statement, what do I need to do, as opposed to you piece of shit, you fucked it up. It's the same. You're doing the exact same thing, but they're two different stories. One is a lot of like suffering, and the other one is just like is effortless. And and yeah, I think like, but like I said, same thing with exercise, is that there's a tolerance that you can kind of sustain, and with the mind it's a bit different, because like in Quake we can just say, oh, let's just keep playing, many references, but you do also have to like kind of treat yourself in the sense that you can't just play thousands of hours in a row. You do need to like actually let your brain kind of process the information. I mean, I wish I could tell you a study, but I would say that they do find that if you study too much in a row, it's like your brain can't process information as efficiently.
Yeah.
And when we're thinking of life and the game and all those things together, like it is about efficiency. You're trying to play and live your life at the same time. It's you can't just be one thing.
No, no, no. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. Very
yeah.
interesting. Like very intriguing to hear, from your perspective and everything. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, uh,
Awesome.
what's I think we're like starting to round off the interview, or like if it's an interview or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's been really fun anyway. But um, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before? Because anything that you feel like
Um,
we've forgotten?
it's funny. Like, I don't know if it was so useful to know. Hmm. Well, the thing is, like, we talked before about this interview about like this
Yeah,
OCD thing, and like, it's funny that people that play games, there's a pretty high chance that you have like depressive or like OCD tendencies, and it's like, well, you just have to be better at like adjusting to them, and like, I'll even, I think why I want to say it is because I feel like maybe it will be interesting to see like based on somebody's face, right? It's so funny because so many people say like, "Oh, Dave, like it looks like you're absolutely fine," and I'm like, "Man, I feel fucking terrible." And it's like, and it's the same thing with like, with how can I say, like trying to just treat people better because you don't know what the fuck they're thinking or how they're like, and we'll have to save it for another time. There's actually something that I think that could be really useful here, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, especially people in the gaming industry, they're a bit they every like I think everyone or there's a reason why you play games. I can't imagine it's because um out of all the things in life, there's a reason why you were drawn to this, and why all the people are very similar, have similar characteristics, and I think we can also like still play, still be competitive, but don't be a fucking asshole. You know,
yeah.
not not impossible.
No, no, that's true. That's true. And very,
Yeah.
very, very interesting words. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, well, if you want to talk more about what you just mentioned, you can say something else about it if you want. Like, uh, because we talked about it before the interview. I'm not sure you want to talk about it, but
Mm,
I think like I said, I think people would find it interesting to know what you were
mm,
sort of coming into there, if you want.
mm. So I guess like the thing is like it's interesting with people that play games and people that are like that have obsessive qualities. You're kind of like you're always trying to look for an answer. You're basically your mind is like trying to connect too many ideas together where you start like overthinking things. I don't know if people can tell, but I overthink quite a lot. I try not to, but and it's funny that like there have been times in my life, even while when I was in Poland, where even now it's like I'd wash my hands fucking like before I would go to bed, I would wash my hands like 20 times for like 5 minutes, and it's funny because like, you know, I couldn't even fucking describe it to you what that's like. It's like you just can't stop. Like, and it's the same way that when how can I say it's like for me like when I play someone it's also very similar too. It's like sometimes I get very like aggressive or I start like thinking just like uh thinking just like as if the other person is like trying to fuck with me or they're trying to like hurt me all the time. All these things are actually just because of like the experiences you've had in your life and um, you know well, I guess it's experiences you've had in your life that kind of make you towards that, which always make you feel unsafe. And it's funny because from somebody who hasn't had those experiences, you're listening to that and you'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I would tell you like, "You have no fucking idea." The funny thing is that people that do know, they know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Um, and it's like that's why I spend so much time. Like I'll even say it here. Like I actually see like a therapist every 2 weeks, and even in Australia, I was like doing it too. And all these things, man, are so important with being able to make it to just I don't want to say normal, but like to have a life which is not so fucking stressful. Because when you actually do all the things, like I'll even show it to you. Give me a second. When you do all the things that they say, you actually are way more fucking relaxed because your brain is not like working too hard to trying to create all this shit. Like here, I don't know if you guys can see, but I have like this is like a hang on, maybe like this. It's like a gratitude journal. Like what you would do is like every day you would write down three things specifically like what you were doing, and how do I say, um, you would just try to like remember good things rather than just like be so in your head of always like thinking about shit, which is completely fucking irrelevant. I'll try to find one that's not embarrassing. Hold on a second. Actually, this is kind of cool. And again, this seems so childish, but like I would get you if you're someone who experiences like this, I would get you to fucking just try it once and just see how you go. Like for example, this is like something else you would do, right? The thing is like when you draw or when you like write down your experiences, and you actually like firstly you can't think. It's very hard to think when you're doing that because you're just like drawing it out and just like what this looks like. Actually, funny enough, this is the moment that I beat CNZ. It's kind of funny, but the thing is like but now when I look back at these moments and see what I've drawn, I'm like, you know, actually, my life is fucking not bad. And the thing is, like all these things again, if I were to go play Quake, it's like the more relaxed mindset, I would play better because I'm not trying to think about like all this other bullshit or I'm not comfortable or something like this. It's like you would just fucking play better. So I would just like encourage people to either like look into that stuff, or if you're having issues like that, like see a therapist. Like I fucking do. I'm not ashamed of fucking saying that because I know how much it's helped me in my life, so I don't give a fuck. And yeah, that's it.
That's it. Oh, that's. Thanks for sharing it, man. I mean, I think yeah, I think it's important to be open about it, honestly. And a lot of people are
Mm,
like, I can assume because I'm just like with all due respect, I don't know how you feel because I've never
mm,
had any issues like that whatsoever. Like my life has been like probably compared to how you feel, my life's been perfect. But
mm,
I can still respect when people are open about it because
mm, mm,
there's probably some situations where you don't want to share stuff, but still, it's like I think that's one part of sort of becoming content with it. I can assume to also be able to talk to people about it, like a therapist, for example, stuff like that, and also trying to
mm,
like implement it in a way so that you can actually almost benefit from it in some ways,
mm,
I
mm.
suppose, because you know who knows, maybe it does help you when it comes to achieving goals or whatever, because it makes you think a different way and whatever. So
Well, I
yeah.
think it would be like impossible to, how do I say, without this level of like being able to calm down. So the thing is like, you could still do it. You could still achieve things even if you are stressed all the time. The difference is that I would say is like one, it's way more fucking enjoyable when you're relaxed, and the second thing is like it's fucking faster as well. Because the difference between like if you think of the game, it's always about like hours in the game and how you're like grinding to get all the information, assess it, and execute. That's what it is. And if the more often you're calm or you're able to like recover faster, let's say like not be annoyed, play, you're in the game, you're getting more hours in, assessing, and executing, and like that's kind of what it's all. How do I say? Well, the more you do that, the faster you'll actually get to what you want to do because you'll know how to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
and
Makes sense.
yeah. So
Um, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, it's okay. I have we have twos, and I need to message Kilson. Fuck.
Oh yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, that's
That's
cool.
like yeah, and I think it's a nice time to round it out anyway, honestly, because it's like I don't know how long we've been talking for now, but it's probably like oh, it's over 1 hour at least. 1 hour 20 minutes, I think. 1 hour 15. So yeah, time just
Yeah.
flies by, honestly. But it was like
Hmm.
dude, I'm really happy that we did this. It was like really fun and yeah, like I said, you were the first guy who came to mind when I got this idea. I was in your stream when I got the idea, so it's pretty fucking cool, like how it
Nice,
came to
nice.
be. Uh, but yeah, any finishing words or how you say it?
Um, no, I guess like well, thanks for doing it with me. I also had fun. It's like love to be able to share with you guys. And I guess yeah, stick. If you haven't already like, this is now this shameless plug. If you haven't already like followed Direwolves, like be sure to tell them, be sure to follow them. Tell them how much you fucking love them, and everyone that does support me, like or the whole process of me getting to this position has been pretty fucking fortunate. And the thing is, like, all the things combined, all the people that have like helped me along the way or didn't want to give up on me by like either being there as support, being supportive, or supporting me financially, it wouldn't have been able possible for me to change my life the way that I have. And yeah, I'm like thankful, grateful for that, and I want to be able to give that back to you guys too. And hopefully, this is probably one of the ways I can do that.
Yeah, yeah, sure
Yeah,
enough. I hope so too. And
yeah,
yeah, awesome. That was not shameless at all. That was just like how I expect it to be. You get the chance to thank people, then you should, because
yeah.
I hope this will reach some people. But
Mm.
either way, it's been a pleasure, and
Mm.
uh, yeah, you and me will
Well,
will.
actually,
Sorry, go ahead.
is there anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying right now in that case. So
Okay.
yeah, no, you and me will probably meet again, but you're a really cool dude, and it was awesome to have this chat, and yeah, the season has just started, so we'll see a lot more of each other. At least we'll see a lot of I'll see a lot uh, of you, but you'll probably
Yeah,
see some of me as well.
I'll see you around. We'll see
Yeah,
you around.
absolutely, absolutely. I don't doubt
Yeah,
that for a second.
yeah.
Anyway, I don't really have anyone to thank. Just yeah, thanks to thanks to the org, I guess. Thanks to Dragonborn, and thanks to Cecilia, who's the CEO, who brought me in again last
Mm.
year. It's been so far. This has been like the best thing that I've ever done in esports to switch from Counter Strike to Quake. So I'm super happy. Thanks to everyone else who's been like supporting me and supporting this idea. When I announced this idea, it received a lot of attention, which is awesome. So hopefully I can continue the series. But anyway, that's it. So thank you so much, David, and see you guys around.
Or as well. Thanks for having me too.
Thanks you. Bye bye.